But my point is, it's discouraging that so many people would gather and rally to hate.
They slander you. And they call you a Nazi, and they call you a fascist, and they call you a racist, and they're going to hope that it works. Madison Square Garden was the scene of one of the most remarkable political events I have ever seen. What's Donald Trump doing in New York, of all places? He can't win New York, but this was not about New York. This was about Manhattan. This was about Gotham. This was about the crossroads of the world right there in New York City. The city's so nice they named it twice. If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And of course, Donald Trump in this triumphant rally, he goes there in Madison Square Garden, right in the center of elite media capital. And how does MSNBC reward him? How does MSNBC treat all of those patriots who filled the most famous arena in the world? Take a look.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally, a rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
It's like they're begging someone to take another shot at this guy. It's like, this is all assassination prep. It's despicable. It's outrageous. And by the way, every single person, how many were there? 19,000, I think they said, 20,000, maybe more. Every single one of the people at Madison Square Garden should sue Jonathan Capehart by name individually and MSNBC for that defamation and for that slander. Because usually they just say Trump's Hitler, right? But this goes well beyond that. They just said in Madison Square Garden, 1939, it was filled with Nazis, just like today. He's calling all those people Nazis. They're not even putting a pretense up anymore. This is how despicable they are. And by the way, you know, not to get all fact-based with these journalists, because I know, they're the only ones who are allowed to fact check, right? They're the only ones who are allowed to actually bring any sort of truth to a journalistic endeavor. And who am I? You know, I'm just streaming this thing live without a net, but I hate to break it to every single so-called journalist who has made this stupid, asinine comparison between that 1939 rally and this rally at Madison Square Garden, because the only thing they can say is, well, it's in the same place. It's the exact same place. So clearly the comparison is apt. 1939, Nazis, Madison Square Garden, and now Trump in 2024, Madison Square Garden. The building that you're looking at right now, Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks play and the Rangers play and where they have WrestleMania and Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus and lots of concerts, Billy Joel. I've been to Madison Square Garden tens and 20s of times. I'm about to say hundreds of times, but that would be overstating the case. That building right there was built on One Penn Plaza, 33rd Street, between 8th and 9th Avenue, right across from the old post office. That building was built in 1968. So even when they're trying to be bigoted, smarmy, snarky, defamation-ridden liberal blowhards by saying, well, you know, the Nazis were there in 1939. They can't even get that right. Did you know that this is the fourth Madison Square Garden ever built in Manhattan? In fact, the first Madison Square Garden was built in Madison Square, named after James Madison in Lower Manhattan. It's down on like 14th Street. And the Madison Square Garden that hosted the Nazis in 1939 was on 8th Avenue and 59th Street, 20 blocks uptown from this Madison Square Garden. It was torn down in 1968 when this arena opened. They can't even get that right, these morons. It literally has nothing in common with the place where the Nazis were. They are just trying to find anything to call you a fascist because they think it's going to work. They think it's going to keep you from voting. They better not be right, by the way. Meanwhile, this morning on MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski was having a full-on, like, bona fide meltdown over this rally.
I think a lot of people are seeing that rally at Madison Square Garden, seeing all those people. Doesn't mean he's going to win the race. But my point is, it's discouraging that so many people would gather and rally to hate speech in America. That it's discouraging and it hurts that people who have family in Puerto Rico, who are Puerto Rican Americans, who are American citizens, are hearing hate like that. It's discouraging, Joe. And I do want to show Michelle Obama and Kalamazoo, but I just think it's important to look at the situation. And it's not just, oh my gosh, about the race. It's, oh my gosh, how did we get here? How did we get here where a stadium of people come to hate? That's a different country, a different time.
You know how you get past that?
How do you get past that?
Work harder, vote, and win. That's how you get past it.
Oh, wow. They're so profound, aren't they? By the way, a great reminder that Joe Scarborough is in his garage down in Florida with a pretend Washington, D.C. backdrop. And there's Mika Brzezinski in another set. I believe actually that's New York with a pretend Washington, D.C. backdrop. Why don't they just do their show out of Washington, D.C.? See, when we're at Hillsdale College in Michigan, we let you know where we are when we're on remote. That being said, did they see the same rally that we saw? How did we get all those people assembled just to hate? See, they're all hate mongers. Every single person in that room is a hate monger. I'm serious. I'm being completely serious about the lawsuits. If you attended that rally, these people using their platform on MSNBC just called you a bigot. And so now, you know, if you post on Facebook that you went to that rally, you will have people who now believe you're a bigot because they saw it on Joe and Mika. And I think you have every right to sue them. That is defamation. They did not do any sort of due diligence to find out if you are a bigot or not. It's insanity. It's absolute insanity. And the insanity continued, by the way, with these morons. Look at the, I do like that they streamed this thing and they made sure that, you know, that this is a hate fest. So we're going to make sure we run it live on all our stations. They still want the ratings, you see. But while they ran it, they had some chyrons. Look on the bottom. Trump's MSG rally comes 85 years after pro-Nazi rally at famed arena. This arena was built in 1968. They're so stupid. They have no, I'm going to say it over and over again. The 85 years ago pro-Nazi rally was literally in a completely different building that just happened to have the same name. That was 25 blocks uptown. Morons. CNN, Trump leans into hateful rhetoric on immigration MSG rally. MSNBC, Trump re-ups vile rhetoric about migrants at MSG. Trump foregoes prompter to rant about conspiracies. Am I the only one, by the way, that when I see MSG, I think monosodium glutamate and not Madison Square Garden? Am I the only one? I am the only one. You know, when you go to a Chinese restaurant for takeout in New York, they always have no MSG. We don't use monosodium glutamate. All right, I digress. As I usually do. Julie Roginski took to Twitter. If you're voting for Trump after this rally, you support fascism. If you claim it's because of taxes or immigration or whatever issue makes you feel righteous about supporting a fascist, you're like an Italian supporting Mussolini because he made the trains run on time. Boy, it is really simple, isn't it? It is really simple and easy to be on the left. It's like anytime any of my political opponents oppose me, all I got to do is call them Mussolini or Hitler or, you know, whoever. Although it is worth a good history lesson. We've learned ad nauseum now about the 1939 rally. And of course, anybody who does anything at Madison Square Garden, apparently this is the rule now. If you use that place for anything, you are also a Nazi, just like 1939 at Madison Square Garden, even though it was a different building. So the Knicks, of course, are the Nazi team of the NBA. Rangers ditto for the NHL. Oh, is that not how it works? Oh, so it's only if you do a political event at Madison Square Garden. Oh, okay. Well, then I guess that means this guy's a Nazi. Because in 1996, Bill Clinton got renominated as the Democrat nominee for president for re-election at Madison Square Garden. By the way, in 2004, so did George W. Bush. I'm actually shocked they didn't pull out the Nazi thing when Bush was there in 2004. They may have, but people didn't pay attention because, you know, they're irrelevant. That said, a lot of sharp-eyed, keen observers of the Madison Square Garden rally that was really just a gathering of bigoted, hating Nazis, they really did use their keen skills of observation, and they noticed one or two peculiar things. For instance, there were a whole lot of Jews there celebrating the new Adolf Hitler.
I just got back from Donald Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden. I'm a Jewish New York Republican, and I have seen the mainstream media calling this a Nazi rally. And that couldn't be further from the truth. There were so many Jews there, just like myself. There was Israeli flags, and nearly every single speaker talked about their commitment to upholding the relationship between U.S. and Israel. Not to mention all the Latinos for Trump, gays for Trump, and nearly every other group that would have never been allowed in if this was actually a Nazi rally. Kamala Harris could literally bring Adolf Hitler on her stage, and the mainstream media still wouldn't call it a Nazi rally. Their lies are futile. Trump is winning this election in 9 days. Make sure you get out, vote early, and vote for Donald Trump.
There you go. And I know she's Jewish because, I mean, just look at that. She's wearing a Star of David on her necklace, you see? You can't miss it. But she's right. There were a whole lot of Jewish people there. In fact, outside the rally, it looked like the national tour of Fiddler on the Roof broke out. I mean, it's a little pitchy dog, but I do like the guy playing Laser Wolf. That is the To Life L'Chaim scene from the tavern when Tevye negotiates to marry off his oldest daughter to Laser Wolf, the butcher, even though she's actually in love with Model the tailor. But you don't marry in Anatevka for love. You marry because you make a good match. That's why they have a matchmaker. Am I the only one here who saw Fiddler on the Roof? Should I move on? Okay, I will. But the point is, generally speaking, Jewish people wearing their yarmulkes and their prayer shawls and dancing and singing in such a joyful manner, they generally don't go to a Hitler rally. And for that matter, they also don't go to a Democrat rally, because if they went and behaved this way at a Democrat rally, they would actually be beat up, because all the pro-Hamas, pro-terror people who actually make up the Democrats' base now, they go full jihad against these guys. That's the sad reality of the situation. Also, if you if you rationalize all of the Jewish people who went to the Hitler rally there to celebrate Nazis and the new Adolf Hitler known as Donald Trump, if you rationalize that by, well, you know, they support the state of Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, everybody knows that they're colonizing fascists, so that makes sense, right? So, you know, it's a different kind of Hitler. Well, okay, you can go ahead with that rationalization, but you're then going to have to explain how there were so many black people there. In fact, especially the black woman who sang the national anthem. Look at all those racists applauding that black woman. Stupidest racists I've ever seen. Seriously. How do you get 20,000 colorblind racists into one room? It's an absolute wonder of science. By the way, her name is Mary Milben, and she's brilliant. You should look her up. Her videos, I've seen her perform the national anthem at multiple conservative political action conferences, the CPAC conference, and other Trump rallies, and she's incredible. She loves this country, and she loves Donald Trump, and you should give her a follow on social media. Mary Milben with 2 L's. She's brilliant. Listen, what is this all about? What is it really all about? I'll tell you what it's all about. They're desperate. They're falling apart. They're in full panic, and they got nothing left. They've already thrown it all out there. They tried everything. They tried to convict him. They tried to get him taken off the ballot. They tried to throw him behind bars. They motivated people to take shots at him, and they came that close from succeeding. They have tried to vilify you. They've tried to vilify him and vilify his family. They've thrown slime at him about what was last week's the groping from 3 decades ago. They've tried everything. And when Kamala Harris signaled last week that she was going to go full Hitler on all of this, that was the last card. And these are cards that they've already played, and they didn't work the first time they played them. And now they're not playing this time around. What's really at play here is they are in full panic mode and completely desperate because they've got nothing left. They've got another week to go. And what's it going to be? Oh, no, he's worse than Hitler. He's Hitler times 10. He's Hitlerissimo. He's Hitlerini. They got nothing. In fact, Jonathan Karl, strangely this morning, political correspondent for Good Morning America and ABC News, he actually sort of gave away the story here with a moment of honesty for his audience and for George Snuffleupagus here.
Look, I was there for about 6 hours yesterday. First thing I've got to say, Madison Square Garden was packed. People waited hours to get in. They sat through hour after hour of this rally. They were fervent in their devotion to all things Trump. Trump has created a movement. There is no doubt. I cannot think of another Republican figure of my lifetime who could have come into a Democratic city like New York and put together anything like that.
That is correct. And that's what this is all about. That's what all the Nazi illusions are, as phony and error-filled as they are, considering they're actually mistaking the building that this took place in. All of the allusions to Nazis and Hitler and racists and fascism and using the military and the latest hoax, the enemy within hoax, which is just like the Very Fine People hoax, which is just like the Russian collusion hoax and every other hoax. They're beating that drum because they got nothing else. And Jonathan Karl points it out. They are seeing something that they have literally never seen before. Maybe the Reagan Revolution, maybe 1984 Reagan. You know, when Reagan won in 1980, that was huge. It was nothing like 84 when he was running for re-election. And maybe that's the best comparison, because in a way this is running for re-election, because we all know what Trump did at his first term. And now he wants a second chance. And he's been so vilified. And those of us who have supported him politically have been so vilified and intimidated to stay in the closet. And you can go ahead and vote for him, but don't be making any noise. Don't be telling me. Don't be telling anybody publicly. Don't be putting a sign out in your yard. Don't be putting a bumper sticker out. Don't actually find yourself in public going to any of these rallies. Those rallies are for Deep South Alabama, where people drive up with pickups and shotguns, and that's fine. Those people can do it, but not civilized people like us, not civilized urbane people, God forbid, in Manhattan. That sort of thing doesn't happen here, but this time it does. The stigma attached to supporting Donald Trump publicly has been washed away, and they're terrified of that. And that's why they're just desperately screaming and slinging anything they can. Let me be clear here in terms of where Donald Trump stands as a Republican 1 week before Election Day. Even with the last 3 Republican victories for the White House that we have seen in the last 25 years, George Bush in 2000, George Bush in 2004, and Donald Trump in 2016. Those 3 victories, the only 3 White House victories of the last 25 years, each one of those victories didn't feel like a victory until election night, when the actual returns started coming in. 1 week out, it seemed, in 2004, neck and neck. In 2000, it seemed like Gore had a slight edge. And in 2016, forget about it. Hillary Clinton was going to blow Donald Trump away. At no time since 1988 has it felt, as a Republican voter, has it felt like the Republican candidate a week out is actually in the driver's seat with a commanding position right where he wants to be on the national poll numbers and in the Electoral College battleground states. That's not only sort of uncomfortable territory for we Republicans, but for these guys, for the Democrats, for the left, for the media, they are freaking out. They have no idea how to handle this. And so they do what they always do. They slander you. And they call you a Nazi, and they call you a fascist, and they call you a racist, and they're going to hope that it works. They're going to try to shame you back into the closet. So we have two dangers here, that people actually hear that and believe it, or the other danger is that people are too overconfident, and they're actually thinking, oh, this is it. It's a done deal. No. No, you got to continue to act like you're 10, 20 points behind right now. And not only does your vote matter, but the 10 people that you're going to reach out to and say, to hell with it. I'm proud to be voting for the Republican this time around because we cannot continue destroying this country with these policies. And I hope you join me. You'll be surprised how many people, those 10 people that you reach out to, how many of them said, you betcha, I was just waiting for someone to say this. I was waiting for someone that I could join, that I could be a part of, that I could be a friend with when we go and vote together. That's what's needed. That's what's needed to be done. And that's why a week after Election Day, not on Election Day, not the day after Election Day, but we can have our party when it's all said and done, when it's all over. And remember, every single time they call Trump a Hitler, they're calling you a Nazi. And the only way you can shut them up, the only way you can stop this, the only way you can actually hurt them is to make them lose again. That's the power you have. That's the power we have. Let's use it. Now, as you know, this election is about a lot. There's a lot at stake, especially with the economy. And sadly, regardless of who is sitting in the White House come January 2025, in many respects, the fuse on this economy has already been lit. 4 years of a conservative presidency is not going to be enough to turn the tide on $35 trillion in national debt. And if the left wins, forget about it. It's throwing gas on a dumpster fire. You don't have much control over the election's outcome, but you can diversify your savings right now by investing in gold from Birch Gold. For millennia, gold has stood firm in the face of greedy governments, economic upheavals, and global strife, and it can help protect you right now in the world we're living in. Birch Gold is going to help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold, and it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. In the past 4 years, the buying power of the U.S. dollar has declined, while the price of gold has increased by 40%. Coincidence? You know it's not a coincidence. Text Larry to 989898. Do that right now. Get a free info kit on gold, and then trust Birch Gold, as I do, to protect your savings. Text Larry to 989898. Do it today.